Right, so you join me down on the beautiful River Wey in Surrey. It's a river that I've been wanting to target for a long time. I've had a bit of a dabble here and there and managed to bank myself a mirror and a common over a period of years, but I've never done any amount of time on here. We're now in late June and a lot of the lakes have spawned, so the fish are down in weight. They're looking a bit ropey. And I was looking for a new challenge, something different. So I figured, do you know what, I'm gonna have a crack on the river. I'm gonna give it a good few months, see what I can winkle out, see what I can do. The target for me is a River 20. If I get a River 20, I'll be over the moon. Prior to this, I did actually manage to get a session down here. I've done a bit of homework. I've looked about, I've picked my spot, came down just before this a couple of days ago, and I managed to have one on the first morning. So that was funny enough, a PB, a common of 15.10. So I'm made up. So fingers crossed, there's a few more to be had. So, public fishing. It's a public river, lots of dog walkers, runners, joggers and everything else. Now dog walkers, they let their dogs go anywhere, they don't bag it up. I suppose the only thing worse than this would be bagging it up and then throwing it in a bush. But first thing I do whenever I get to my swim is I unfortunately have to do a poo pick. And I don't know what laid that, but it's got some weight to it. Right, so the spot that I've picked, I chose because it's a junction. It's where a canal meets the main river. And previously, as I mentioned, I had a lovely dark mirror from a spot which isn't far from here. Unfortunately, the canal trust kind of decimated that area. So it used to hold quite a bit of carp, but those carp have now had to move off to other places. So somewhere with cover, somewhere off the main flow, this has all of that. It's perfect. There's a row of houseboats there which will offer the cover. There's also some vegetation along the bank, and there's a crease and a bit of an eddy, so you can see where there's calm water, so they can sit off the flow, chill out, but it's also an area that natural food and stuff like that is going to gather. So for all of those reasons, this was my first port of call when picking a spot. I have actually baited another spot as well a bit further down, just in case there's someone here, someone's nicked my spot. So other than that, I mean, I've dragged the lead through, the bottom's lovely, it's hard sand, there's no weed, so I can present with bottom baits, whatever sort of setup I want really. So yeah, it's got everything I'd look for personally, although I'm not the most experienced, so this whole thing is a bit of a learning experience for me. We've spoken about the spot that I've picked. Now it's my approach to baiting and rigs. Firstly, I'll go with the bait. So it was evident from my first morning that the crays are pretty voracious here, and my baits were getting whittled down very, very quickly. So for that reason, I'm opting for, I still want to use boilies, but I've used some mesh, some shrink mesh around my boilie. Then I've got a plastic topper to go on top, which hopefully I think will evade the crays. Then I'm gonna fish tiger nuts on the other rod. It was actually the tiger nuts from Carp Particle that did me the bite the other morning. Along with that, the plan is to try and get lots of little bits, maybe try and keep the crays occupied with smaller bits and bobs. So for that reason, I'm going in with Carp Particle's visual mix. There's lots of little bits. There's tigers in there as well, and I think this will do me a job. It'll also keep the spot clean should any weeds start to want to grow up and whatever else. Yeah, and just a krill-based boilie in and amongst that. Not to mention, sorry, I should say as well, is the liquids from Carp Particles. So I'm a really big fan of their garlic oil. I use it in a lot of my fishing, whether that's on lakes or on the river. I found that the bream kind of they don't really seem to bother you so much with the garlic oil. So hopefully it'll keep them at bay as well. About my setup for the river. I've decided to go with the hit and run leader. If you don't know what they are, they're well worth a look. In essence, it's a lead clip, but it's a lead clip that then, after a bit of pressure, becomes a running lead. Bite indication is second to none, but if you do hit any snags on the river or any branches or anything like that wash in, you know you're safe because you're going to dump the lead. To that, I've tied a very simple knotless knot. These fish aren't riggy, they don't see a lot of pressure, so there's no need to overcomplicate anything. I've gone with the awesome PB Products jelly wire, which I absolutely love, with a section towards the hook that's stripped back just for a bit of supple movement. Quite a long hair because I'm fishing quite big baits to try and keep the bream and the crays at bay. And then my ever faithful anti-eject hooks. Since I moved over to PB and using these hooks, I honestly, to me, they didn't look exactly the most exciting hooks. They're not the most fashionable. They don't have a massive long point to them. They've got a shorter point, but with these hooks, it's function over fashion. The shorter point means that once that hook penetrates, you get round to the curve in the hook that much quicker, meaning that your hook hold is safe. And yeah, the hook holds I've had have been insane. Inch back in the mouth, never coming out. I can't say enough good about these. I love them. I've got complete faith in them. So yeah, that was the setup that I had my first fish on the other morning, and that's the setup I'll be going in with on this session. Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks, mate. So as you can see behind me, the sun's setting, the day's coming to an end. It's getting to that magical time of the evening where the river seems to just come alive. We didn't get here till quite late in the day, but we're here now, set up for the evening. Fingers crossed, something will happen. The last bite I had was at about 10 to 5 in the morning, so I'll be setting an alarm, getting up early to watch the rods, watch the water, see what happens. Coming. Yes. Happy days. Ah. 1-0 to the tiger nut. So that's about 4:15 in the morning. Really awoken by a 1-toner on my right hand rod, the Carp Particle UK Tiger Nuts. Yeah, I was fast asleep, as I say, on one of my arms and Probably the hardest battle I've ever had with the smallest carp. It's not massive, but it's a carp and it's a start, so gonna just give the hook a bit of a going over. I mean, it's still pretty good, but I want it really razor sharp. I'm gonna get it back out on the spot, and then we'll take a look at the little common we got in the net. Right, so we've had one. It's no monster by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a carp all the same out the river. And it's a beautiful little thing. Let's see if she'll behave. So again, this one was off that same spot I had the one from the other morning. Caught on the Carp Particle UK tiger nuts. Leaves me with a bit of a dilemma whether to switch that rod up with bigger baits or put both rods on tiger nuts. But we'll have a brew and then have a think about it, get a game plan together for the rest of the session. So as I previously mentioned, I've been baiting another spot on the river, and I've popped down just to have a look at it, see if there's anything happening there. Doesn't appear to be. I think the bait's still there, so the fish haven't turned up. They haven't been feeding there. So I'm happy to stay where I am for the time being, in the hope that the bigger fish turn up. So we'll see what happens. So it's been a pretty uneventful day today. I think going into the evening, the plan will be just before the dying of the light, get some bait out. I'm going to go big tonight. I think there maybe could have been more bites to be had this morning had I had more bait out there. So the plan will be get a decent bit of bait out there, and then given that both bites I've had have been 4 o'clock, around the sort of 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time, it'll be a case of setting an alarm, getting up, and hopefully waiting for the rod to rip off. But we'll keep you posted. So that's the last morning of this trip. Unfortunately, it's passed pretty uneventful. I set an alarm for 4 o'clock this morning, which is sort of bite time. Woke up just before it, sat and watched the rods, but didn't happen. So we're going to pack up, head off soon. I'll be back in a few days to have another crack, and I'll keep going. I'll keep getting down here, keep the bait going in. I think pre-baiting is definitely a way forward. I think the thing is with any river, you don't know what the stock is. I think that's part of the appeal for me.
they've not got names. You don't know what's in here. Could throw up something really special. You've got a transient group of fish. You've got localized fish that sort of stay in an area, but you never really know. It's not been a bad trip by any stretch of the imagination. We've had one, albeit a small one. The whole thing's been a massive learning curve, and that will continue hopefully. So it'd be great to sort of help anyone that's in my position that's having a crack at a river. So yeah, we'll pack up and head off, but hopefully I'll see you again soon.